My name is Rihanna Binkley. I am the project manager for this oral history project, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
My name is Michael Delane, former captain at Station 48 on Treasure Island for about 15 years.
Today is Friday, March 25th, and it's a little after 10 a.m. And we are recording for Treasured Stories, the oral histories of Treasure Island between 1997 and the present. Okay, so why don't we just get started with a really open-ended question? Tell me about the first time you went to Treasure Island.
First time I went to Treasure Island, that's a very good question. I'm sure at some point I did, but I don't remember that far back. Back when the military was still there, my stepfather was in the service, so that I remember him taking me there. They still had guards at the gates, front gates, and a number of those things. But to me, it was just an outing and amazing, and seeing people in uniform. And I was very, very young at that time, having been born in 1950, very young at that time. But since then, I think it was very much more in the future that I actually had a chance to live on Treasure Island with my wife, Terry. And we had a residence on Treasure Island. I think we were there from 2 to 3 years, about 2 of the years, 2.5 of the years on Treasure Island, and living on Yerba Buena Island for about a half a year to almost a year. And that's really my first instance involvement with Treasure Island. Now, I was in the fire department at that time, and at the very beginning, the developers on Treasure Island were saying that people living and working on Treasure Island were going to have first right to be able to buy some of the new development that's currently going on now in 2022. But this was way back. And I guess there was a little self-centered selfishness of myself saying, oh, okay, let me live on the island since I work on the island, and maybe I'll get first right to buy something really nice when this development happens in the next couple of years. Well, okay, let's fast forward about 26 more years until the development just starting. Mm-hmm. But that was my first involvement about being on Treasure Island. But certainly I was there as a captain when I retired in 2015, after serving 33 years in the fire department. But yeah, about 10 to 15 years being the captain at Station 48 on Treasure Island was most of my time.
Can you tell me a little about that time of your life when you were captain?
Well, it was a little interesting. I was actually stationed at a firehouse, Station 13 on Sansom Street, a couple blocks right around the corner from the Trans-American building in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I remember going on vacation, and I don't remember, 3 or 4 weeks vacation, and I would come by periodically and just check on what was going on while I was on vacation. I saw this notice that came out asking people if they were interested in possibly working on Treasure Island. I know at that time, Willie Brown being the mayor of San Francisco and Jerry Brown being the mayor at the time of Oakland were trying to determine whether or not they were going to take the property on Treasure Island. And I guess however it happened, San Francisco got it. Hence, they asked people, since the military fire department was going to leave, they were asking people in the San Francisco Fire Department if they were interested in possibly considering working on Treasure Island. Well, I didn't really know a whole lot about Treasure Island, but while I was there on vacation, I wrote a little letter up and put the official form in and sent it in, went back on vacation. So I get back off of vacation after a month, and now I'm reassigned to Treasure Island. And I'm like, wait a minute, nobody said this was to be considered. Well, mm-hmm. I guess they considered. And the next thing I know, I was reassigned. So a number of us for the first time were reassigned there. And it was kind of interesting because we had to work for about 2 or 3 months of just being detailed meaning leaving from one location and coming to Treasure Island to work with the military service guys or the fire department there that was leaving. And of course, it was a hard situation. These guys knew they were losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And in the federal government, I guess, they would have to transfer to another city to possibly work at, but they had to leave us. So, you know, it was a nice environment in that you got to meet some people and learn some different things that weren't going on. But at the same time, there was a little underpinning of resentment that we had to get through. And that's not to say that anybody on the island that was working at that time for the military was disrespectful, but let's just say we weren't 100% effort of trying to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really my first little adventure into being a firefighter on the island. Once they actually left, and the fire San Francisco took over as the caretakers as the fire department on Treasure Island and Yerba Buena Island, we had to almost start from scratch, figure out where the gas lines were, figure out where the main shutoffs and different things that controlled water were, and on the fly, we had to learn to take care of the bridge. So the bridge was really our baby from Treasure Island. If you leave Treasure Island and go towards San Francisco, that little stretch from Treasure Island to San Francisco, and that little stretch from Treasure Island to Oakland, to the East Bay, that was our responsibility.
Oh.
So if there was some kind of emergency between Treasure Island and San Francisco, they would call us, because any unit coming from San Francisco would have to turn around on Treasure Island to get there. We were the closest one to it. And it worked the same way, the other direction towards Oakland. If anything was happening from Treasure Island to Oakland, we were first on the scene. In many cases, Oakland would show up. So that's kind of how it worked. And at that time, it was kind of interesting because we had to relearn all the different parts of how to get water supplied on the island. So it was a little it was a little interesting, I must say, for the first year and a half. But we worked it out. We learned how to do it. What was interesting at first, most firehouses, San Francisco Fire Department has a number of different kind of firehouses. There are some firehouses that are only single firehouses. We say single, meaning only one piece of apparatus, which would be an engine. Mm-hmm. Then there are other firehouses in San Francisco that are double companies. They have an engine and a truck. Engine being the apparatus that has water, truck being the apparatus that has ladders to ladder a building.
Okay.
And then there are some companies that actually have rescue squad and other services the fire department do that make them a lot larger. And we at 48 reached a point after only having an engine and a truck, realized that we needed to have an ambulance too, or at least the department realized that. We kept crying for one, but we got it, because medically they'd have to wait till units come from Oakland or San Francisco to turn around to be able to get there. So it made more sense for them to have a medical unit at 48. So that's how we got a medical unit, an ambulance, Medic 48. And with that, you would think that there'd be a lot of fires. Treasure Island isn't really that big. Yerba Buena isn't really that big. Certainly we've had our number of fires there in the 10 to 15 years that I was there, but most of our work was on the Bay Bridge. Drunk drivers having accidents, crashes, cutting people out of cars, all kind of stuff like that. So a lot of interesting things on the bridge.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories. Don't need to be said.
Yeah.
a lot of emergencies.
So then for your first 2 years living on the first 2 years you were working at 48 were the 2 years you were working or living on the island, right?
Yes. Well, yes. I had, yeah, it was pretty close together. Yes.
So what was your experience living on the island with the community?
It was kind of interesting. It was very peaceful in the beginning because there just wasn't a lot of people there. And I loved it because I could walk my dog up on Una Buena, man. It's just trees and all these eucalyptus trees and quiet, and great views. And so it was very good for me. I loved it. It was a great peace of mind and a great relaxation. The community on Treasure Island was very small at first. I think I had mentioned to you in the past that Terry and I actually got the #1 sticker that they gave out for cars. They had some kind of reasoning whereby, you know, they had people at the gate had to have a sticker. You had to come through the gate with a sticker. And if you had a sticker and being a resident, you wouldn't be, I don't know, jammed up. You didn't get charged, but I don't know what it was. So we had sticker #1 for our car. We felt so proud and didn't know what the hell that meant. But we were stickers #1. But the island was good. The island was good. The part that wasn't that good was there was no cafes, there were no stores, there was nowhere to really get your stuff. And during that time, with Terry being the principal of Life Learning Academy, she started a little cafe. And the cafe wasn't actually meant in the beginning to make money. Obviously, nobody wants to do a business without making money. We want to at least try to break even. But it was more pointed in the direction of trying to give kids some skills, being able to deal with the public, being able to manage, being able to order, being able to prepare food, and learning how that little business runs like that. So they had a little cafe over there by the water that they had. And unfortunately, it was only run from like 6 o'clock in the morning. I think it was 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning until maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. So they didn't really do a lunch. There was something a little in between that. And they may have done lunch, but they were certainly in between breakfast and I think they did breakfast and lunch, but there certainly wasn't any dinner. And a lot of residents were complaining at that time that would leave the island, go work, was saying, look, we need to have somewhere to eat when we get home. And there's nowhere to eat. I know there was a little store that opened up, and I think the same people that have the market on Treasure Island are the same people that initially had the first little store over at the front of the gate. When you come down the hill. And so that was really it. That was really it. Job Corps actually had a situation whereby they were training people how to do cooks. That was part of their training. And they actually had it where you could literally come, and I forgot how you made a reservation. Yeah, I think you had to call somebody to make a reservation. And you could say, I have a group of 6 or 8 or 3 or 4, and you'd come by and they would prepare lunch for you if you wanted to have lunch. And they didn't charge you for lunch. All they asked was a tip, a gratuity tip, which worked out pretty good. A lot of people would do that. So from time to time, my wife and I and some friends would use Job Corps to eat. And also another great little secret we found was over at the base on the other side, over on Yerba Buena, at their little base on that side at the bottom of Yerba Buena. They also had it where you could come and have lunch and dinner. And I think lunch was something like $2.50. And we reached a point where a lot of times the firefighters, we say, okay, we don't feel like cooking today. Let's just go over to the Navy. And we'd go over there and eat for little or nothing. And it'd be tons of food. Tons of food. I don't recall us ever going there for dinner. one of the things that firefighters always pride themselves on is cooking dinner for some reason. 33 years, I'm still learning how to cook, but they did do dinner there, but it was a very good little, I mean, they would have like, you have filet mignon steak and they'd have fish and they'd have all this.
Wow.
That was very early on. Pasta dish, whatever you want to eat, big salads, whatever you want to take, sodas or drinks or whatever, which was fine. And they were very, very considerate and very hospitable. Now, that all changed. Not them being hospitable, the Navy being hospitable. That all changed when more people got to the island.
Mm-hmm.
So more people got to the island, and a lot of these people weren't as considerate as the people that were already on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And they started learning about all these places, and that's the only thing they would do is just hang out, and that's all they do is eat, 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 eat.
Mm.
So the Navy, the military base over there changed their menu from all the stuff they used to have and used to have a basic thing. It was still good. It was still good. They'd have a meat today, or they'd have a pasta today, or they'd have soup and whatever, grilled cheeses or whatever it was, but it was good. So that was very early on. I was always amazed at all the animals on the island. We had some falcons that were, you would come down off, like coming from San Francisco and take the ramp down, and you can look to the left there and see these falcons just kind of hovering in the air and checking out for some food. And I remember them for years and years and years. I remember trying to get to work and be late and call ahead of time and tell, that's what you have to do in the fire department. And somebody that was on duty getting ready to get off at 8 o'clock in your position, you would say, hey, do you mind working 15 more minutes? I'll be there shortly. I'm running a little late. And for the most part, everybody would say, we're fine. So I'd be rushing, trying to really get there. And consequently, we'd have some semi truck that didn't know how to turn correctly at the turnoff.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know all about that.
Yeah.
They really go wide before they make their left. Well, they would cut into the left and then get stuck.
Oh, no.
And the only way they could fix it was to back up, to readjust themselves. So I remember many times, literally, there would be 2 or 3 cars stopped on the freeway waiting for this truck. And I literally stopped my car, not on duty, get out my car and literally go to each one of these cars and say, you have to back up. It's not, I know you're mad. I know you're pissed. But what you need to do is go past this, turn around at the toll. There's a turnaround where you don't have to pay toll again and come back on to Treasure Island, and then you can get on Treasure Island. And then I try to help the drivers back up with their truck until they got it straight. But I remember that happening a lot. So it was a lot of that. At that early time, we had an exit from San Francisco on both sides. There was one on the left side and there was one on the right side. And the same way coming from Oakland, very early on, they had an exit on both sides, left side and right side. So then as Treasure Island kept going and some sort of development started, I guess, they only got one exit if you're coming from San Francisco on the left side, but they are going to build another exit on the right side as they originally had. And the same thing from coming from Oakland. They used to have an exit on the left side, just like they do from San Francisco.
Yeah.
They closed that and moved it to the right side. But the plan, my understanding is they're going to open up the left side again, and they're going to open up the right side coming from San Francisco again.
Okay.
So there'll be 2 exits on either side.
It seems like they'll have to be, right? Because of the influx of people coming.
Oh, man, yes. I don't remember what year, but it was over 20 something plus years ago. As I mentioned to you before, I got a chance to, and that was through my connection with the Delancey Street Foundation, with Dr. Mimi Silver, our CEO and president. I guess she had an opportunity, Willie Brown being a good friend of hers when Willie was the mayor, and he needed some people to be on the citizen advisory board for Treasure Island and Yerba Buena Island. And he asked me for 3 people. I think at that time, the Board of Supervisors picked 6 people and the mayor's office picked 3 people. And I was one of those people fortunate to be picked to be able to be on the Citizens Advisory Board by the Mayor Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed on the board for over 20 years. And I may have actually been, I think there's still one person who is from the original group. He's the president right now. For the life of me, I apologize. I can't remember his name, that is still on that board. But it was 3 people through Delancey Street that were able to be on the board. 2 left, and I stayed and vice chair for a number of years, and finally retired when I retired from the fire department. As I said to you earlier, my give a heck button got broken when I turned 70. No, I don't know. Okay. Something like that.
Yes.
But I had to dial it back a little bit. So that was one of the things. But it was interesting being on the Citizen Advisory Board. I am not a acronym guy. So to hear people saying the SAP and the TWS and the NW, and I'm like, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking as an illiterate idiot, could you explain to me exactly what that means? Oh, Mike, that's blah, 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 blah. And everybody be looking at me about, man, you're just kind of in caveman. Yes, I am, but I want to know what the hell you're talking about. This is going past me. I don't have a problem opening my mouth and making noise, but
like how everyone just calls it the cab now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cab. Who's catching a cab? What the, so.
And
yeah,
TI and YBI.
It's all acronyms.
It really is. It's a world of acronyms for sure.
And there are even more acronyms when you get into like putting out bids for leases and different stuff and they've got tons. You can read information and I'm saying, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? So that was interesting. Very early on, trying to have meetings at City Hall once a month. We had meetings until we started doing at least once a month, a couple times at City Hall and a couple of times at Yerba Buena on Treasure Island. So that was good. But feeling privileged to have been at the very beginning, have gone through what we as a group believed that was important, that needed to be done on Yerba Buena and Treasure Island, and being part of all that and listening to a lot of presentations in all those years. But it was good. You had a chance to see exactly where they were on their development, on the process to getting to the development. They had to do a transfer of the land. The military owned the land. And I guess San Francisco had decided, yes, we want to buy the land. And what I didn't know early on, which I learned, I guess, at the very beginning, when we had planes that had propellers, they were landing. It was a military base, and they were landing on Treasure Island. And I understand that the city and the Navy swapped property. That's how we were able to get the San Francisco airport, which was military property. And in return, they got Treasure Island and, did their base and did whatever they were doing. And now with time coming forward, we're at the point of buying it back from them. And so we had to go through a lot of legislative processes to get land transferred over. And there are a lot of legislators, a lot of bills being passed in the state to be able to have that happen. And I think most of it has happened. I know it was something like a 15-year plan on the development, and certain sections during that 15 years would be developed. But the final plan looks fantastic. I still don't understand how they're going to put 60-story towers, condominiums with underground parking on Treasure Island. I think I'm glad I retired from the fire department. That's good. And God bless them. That's where our technology has got. But certainly it was all about shoring up the island, A lot of talk about waves and climate control and the rise of sea level. We've had a lot of conversations about that. My whole thing was that the one that I remember the most was that what I kept trying to fight for was always trying to try to deal with the residents on Treasure Island. Having been one that lived there, I wanted to try to be able to have them have something. Now I understand that John Stewart and the people who are doing the rental on Treasure Island, Yerba Buena Island, had in their lease agreements that at some point we're going to develop this island, and at some point you guys are going to have to leave. Well, I guess when it got to the end, it really turned into people feeling like they had community, had been around, they wanted something more, and it turned into the renters actually being able to give these people an opportunity to either move down to your Treasure Island from Yerba Buena, because that was the first development. And they would do that for free, pay their moving charges, all that. And then if somebody actually lived on Yerba Buena and wanted to leave and move to somewhere in California or off the state, John Stewart actually paid their moving company fees. So I thought that was pretty big of them to do that. But it was unique. It was unique, and that happened. And that's what has gotten us to the present now.
Let's go back to, can you tell us a little more about your connection with Delancey?
Yeah, I got into the San Francisco Fire Department. How do you not remember? Somewhere around 82 or 83.
Okay.
I was actually living in the East Bay. Moved back to San Francisco, and I had a friend of mine who is retired, still a friend, named Walt Baptiste. We played tennis together. I came through high, played tennis at my high school at Berkeley High. And Walt was a tennis player, and we had a tennis club at San Pablo Park in Berkeley. Pretty big club, about 200 people. And he came and joined us, and we all played, and that's how I got to know him. And he got a job in the fire department, and he says, "Look, we're looking to hire some people that are basically in shape and can do the job. Are you guys interested?" So about 4 of us, me being one of the 4, we all signed up, and fire department called us and said we had to come take this written test. We took a aptitude test. It wasn't really based on what do you knew about fire department apparatus and things. It was just an aptitude test. And then we had to take a physical test where you had to do some running, pulling hose, climb ladders as quick as you can, lifting, chopping, carrying, different things like that. And all 4 of us did it. And I guess ironically, I was the only person out of that got called by the fire department. They got on the list. Fire department at that time had a list whereby they would, you would be trying to get hired by the fire department, and you take the test, and however you scored or however they scored you, they'd put you on the list from 1 to whatever it was, 1,000, 1,500, 3,000, whatever it is, how many people they tested. So at that time that the list came out, I had moved to Dallas, Texas. I was working for another country, another company that was in the business of election machines. It was called Computer Election Systems. They were based out of Albany, and then their printing of paper ballots, punch card ballots, that we kind of use now. Back then, it was big machines. This was a new company. I remember it because there was 5 guys that bought the rights to punch card voting from what was it, IBM or somewhere. IBM didn't want it. These guys bought it, started a company, and became multimillionaires and making this work. But anyway, that company for printing the ballots moved to Dallas, Texas, and I was in charge of that part. So I moved to Dallas, Texas, not knowing where I was on the list in the fire department. So a couple of 2 or 3, and at this time, that list would stay open for a period of 5 years. And about 3 years, 3.5 years, maybe 4 years into this list, of the time being into this list, Walt Baptiste, my friend, called me and said, "Hey, Mike, whatever happened to you on the list?" I said, "I don't know. I never got anything that told me I was on the list." He said, "Well, you were supposed to get some information about where you landed on the list, where your number was." So he got a hold of the Black firefighters in San Francisco, and Bob Dimmons, our first African-American chief in the San Francisco Fire Department, actually was the president of the Black firefighters at the time. They got together and found out that I had been passed over. Now, I don't know what that means, but I was number 156 on this 700 thing list. I should have been hired within the first year and a half, but somehow I got passed over.
Oh, no.
And now we were getting to the end of the list. So the Black firefighters got into it. And as it turned out, there was about 13 of us that got hired by the fire department, were officially going to be hired by the fire department. The Black firefighters had found that they had passed over 13 people, and it doesn't mean African-American people, it was all people of color.
Okay.
And understand, back then, it was all male fire department.
Yeah.
So my claim to fame is I got in with the last 12 people. There was one guy, they told him he had razor bumps being an African-American man, and the seal on his mask wouldn't seal, and we couldn't hire you. And I said, that was BS, you need to get an attorney. He said, forget it, he left. But 12 of us got hired by the fire department. We were the last 12 off of the all-male list in the history of the San Francisco Fire Department. Ironically, there was a class being trained in the training tower when we got hired. They had to hire us. So we were hired by the fire department and literally could not train to be a firefighter. We had to wait till the other class within the training had graduated, and then they would bring us on. For the first, I would say the first 3 weeks, we literally would meet. Years ago, they changed the location now. They're over on Gerald Street, but the toy program had a place on 3rd Street. It's now where the new police department building is on 3rd Street.
Okay.
And we have Station 4, Firefighter Station 4, the fire company Station 4, located there. Well, that building used to be where the toy program was. And so they had us there with a couple of lieutenants that were assigned from the fire department, and they were there just to babysit us. We did no training, no nothing. It was against the law for us to learn something early before our time. So it was pretty interesting. There were guys say, "What do you want to eat today? Let's go get steaks. Let's go get this. We're barbecuing." They had a fish pond at that station at the time. We were cleaning the fish pond, and then they say, "Hey, you guys want to see a truck?" And they'd have a truck come over, and you want to see an engine. I remember there was a couple of fires on 3rd Street that we ran down to take a look at. We wanted to help load holes or do whatever. They wouldn't let us do anything. We couldn't do anything. For the fact that we might get injured and whatever might happen. So that was early on. So I get into the fire department, and ironically, I say we were the last 12 people off the all-male list, because they didn't hire again for 5 years, and that's when the first woman got into the fire department.
Okay.
That was back during all of that Black firefighters doing their consent decree and saying that the department isn't great, and the judge finding that the department was lacking and discriminating, and they made a whole lot of changes. A lot of people of color were able to get into the fire department at that time. Now, I've heard a lot of other stories back in the day from other guys in the fire department before me, how they were treated and discriminated on and all that, but that's all part of part of change, I guess. But that's how I first started in the fire department. And for the first year in the fire department, you're on probation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do 6 months of training on an engine company, which has basically 500 gallons of water, and learn how to connect holes, shoot water, actually operate the pump without killing somebody and putting too much pressure on it. And then also you'd have to be another 6 months on a truck company.
Mm-hmm.
So I never knew, when you're on probation, you don't know where they're going to assign you. So once you graduate from the tower, everybody's always anxious about, where's our assignment? Where's our first assignment? So my first assignment was at Station 15 over by City College.
Okay.
The firehouse there. I did my engine work at Station 15. I was just trying to remember my probationary officer. I can't remember his name for the life of me. But I did my first 6 months there, 24-hour shifts. And that's how you first learn you first get your experience and start seeing things. And then the next 6 months, you're on a truck company. And after I did my 6 months training, you have to take a test for that particular engine. I passed that test. I got assigned to my truck company. My truck company was at Station 10. Station 10 is on Presidio. No, wait a minute. It's on California, and it's where the San Francisco Firefighters Credit Union is. I think that's Presidio and California. Anyway, that's where I did my truck company and was there for 6 months. Ironic, while there, they said that the land that they were actually on used to be a cemetery. So everybody used to always kid you about ghosts and all that stuff. And anyway, I don't know why that sticks in my mind. A lot of people say, I like to tell people that the fire department is a great job and it pays well, but you have to be able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of things that emotionally can damage you. And so I think that's why I've used a lot of humor in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always joking, always the clown, and people say, what's wrong with him? And I think that's my way to defend or deflect all the stuff I deal with. I use that analogy in that I remember one time Terry had asked me, how was your day? Husbands and wives say, how was your day? Oh, I had a good day, or I had a pain in the ass, this person, whatever. And I said, honey, you really don't want to know what's going on. No, I do. And then when you start hearing about some decapitations and gunshots and some horrible stuff, you start saying, okay, I don't need to hear anymore. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a counselor and they have a clergy person, and they have people for you to talk to very early on, but nobody really uses them. There are some people that use them, but nobody really uses them. And you learn how to kind of suck it up and just do what you got to do. So I think I've done that a long time, for 33 years, but in my heart, I've always tried to help people and reach out and try to do the best I can to help somebody. And I think that's pretty much what my career was. I've bounced around to a lot of firehouses. I had some time in 33 years have worked at every firehouse in San Francisco from one time or another.
Wow.
And there are some unique people. The fire department, I have to say, has a unique fellowship. They, for the most part, are great in saving people.
Mm-hmm.
But you can literally have two people in the firehouse that hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't say two words to. If one had a heart attack, the other one wouldn't even try to help him.
Mm.
I mean, I'm just trying to tell you the analogy, but when the bell rings and it's the public and it's that rush of adrenaline, and we're rolling and sirens are rolling and we got to do and you got to observe, and somehow we all became brothers and we help each other. And then we get back to the firehouse and say you're an asshole. But that's just kind of how it works. But it's a great job and a great group of people that can do the job. And it's I wouldn't have changed it for anything in the world.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Kind of going back to Treasure Island, what are your hopes for the future for all this development?
Well, I remember very early on in the process of the cab, them saying that a 2-bedroom place was going to cost a couple $100,000, a condominium. Now let's fast forward 20 years later. You'd probably get all the teeth slapped out your mouth even mentioning something at that price. But the reality is it's going to cost a lot more.
Yeah.
I think it's a jewel in the water. It's Treasure Island, Yerba Buena is a definite jewel. I can't even say it, in the water. And I think it's really going to be nice. I think it's great that part of the development turned into everybody having a chance to live there. There have been some people who have put a bunch of sweat and tears in trying to make it be fair.
Yes.
Environmentally. Sherry has done yeoman's work, I'm trying to tell you, and making sure there were people less fortunate having availability to live on the island. And I think that's what's good. I remember early on when I was living on Treasure Island, and the rentals, there were people paying full rent and there were people Section 8 and whatever. We were all mixed together.
Yes.
And I remember one night hearing this screaming and yelling across from me, and some guy was just yelling, and some lady had like 6 kids, lived across from us. She was Section 8, nice lady, bunch of kids. She's doing the best she can to take care of all these kids. And as they say in the present now, she had about 3 or 4 babies' daddies. One of them was a little inebriated or whatever he was on, decided at 2 or 3 in the morning to start screaming at the top of his lungs, "Open the door, let me see my kids," or something. It was on one of those kind of things. So I got up, and Terry said, no, you can't go over there. And I said, yeah, I'm going over there. I put on my clothes, went over there and said, look, brother, hey, man, get the whatever, man, I'll do. I said, okay, all that's good and fine, but you can't be acting like a clown at this time in the morning, man. People trying to sleep, and you're acting a little crazy. And, a lot of threats from him and the whole thing, but some things need to be said and need to be done. But I remember stuff like that. What I also remember is that the housing, the military housing, has an attic space that's open to every unit. So people figured that out. There's a little thing that they could go up in their attic space and they could go over to their next door neighbor's space. So people were getting robberies going on.
Oh no.
They didn't know literally how people were getting in.
Oh no.
Now, the only reason I found out about it, not about the robberies, I knew robberies were going on, and they were saying what's going on, is as a firefighter, when a building like that catches fire, that whole fire can go through the attic to every unit. So we knew that the units were open. So we let John Stewart know, and John Stewart started sheetrocking.
Oh my gosh.
These attics off. But in the very beginning, all of that was open. People dropped it down, stealing stuff, climb back up.
Oh my God.
There's a gang of those stories.
Oh wow.
But I think Treasure Island is going to be a great place. It's really going to be nice. I know they want to do a shuttle around the island. they've got some, they're talking about bed and breath, B&Bs being done on the backside of the island. I'm glad they got all the toxic stuff cleaned up because the Navy doesn't care about that. They police themselves.
Right.
So I'm glad they did a lot of the cleanup. And there are a lot of people and still people who are very good on the cab, still working today. Sherry Williams still doing her thing. I know the mayors that have come through San Francisco and a number of people. I don't want to include Rich Rivetti, my old buddy, man. He is so funny. I love him. We're still working there.
Yep.
But a lot of people have put in a lot of work, and I think it's going to come to fruition here, and it's going to be good. I think it's really going to be good.
That's amazing. We can let's
what
hope.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying we can hope. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what is my dream for the island? My dream is that it blossoms to exactly what it is. I think back to the first firehouse they had there when we took over from the military, and they used to had a big drawing on the wall, and it was a diagram of the island, and it literally pointed to certain parts of the island that had different dates of the year and showed you what fish to catch and what bait to use. And somehow that map disappeared. I wish I'd have took a picture of that map.
Oh no. And it was correct. You actually went out and did what it said and you caught fish.
Yeah,
oh wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was kind of
Cool.
what time of the day, what time of the year. It was kind of unique, and that thing disappeared. So we ironically, I went by Station 48 yesterday. As it turns out, the original Station 48 we had found, and I think the statute of limitations has run out. I don't. There's nothing the department can do to me. Anyway, we found black mold in the firehouse, and I kept reporting it as the captain. Blah blah blah. Nothing was happening. After about 6 months, almost a year, I went and paid my own money out of my pocket to hire a mold specialist that came and did a test and found black mold in our kitchen and various places throughout the firehouse. Mm-hmm. So we told the department what was going on, and they didn't do anything for about 6 months. So we had talked about getting an attorney and doing some things. And the next thing you know, they said, oh, we're going to build you a brand new firehouse. We said, oh, okay. So they moved us from the firehouse that had all the mold and everything in it, which is right around the corner from the present firehouse, and moved us to the training facility, the big training facility over there. So we lived in classrooms for maybe 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was getting ready to get off work one day, and I twisted my ankle it wasn't even off the curb, twisted my ankle something, it was like 30 minutes before I was getting ready to get off at 8 o'clock the next morning. And I, get off, go home, ankle swole up. I go to the doctor and found out I had a tear in my leg, in my foot, tore my Achilles.
Oh, no.
And they actually told me you don't need surgery, but I had to wear a boot for 6 months and had the little scooter with my little foot doing the whole little thing. So they transferred me to days. So here I am, 32 years working in the fire department, 24 hours off, 48 hours off, 24 hours on, 48 hours off, 24 hours on, 48 hours, doing that, working whatever overtime. To now I was 5 days a week. Now I've had 40-hour-a-week jobs, but now after 32 years, I was back at 40 hours a week. They had me situated at headquarters over here at 2nd and Townsend. I worked in the mailroom. Being a person that's been active all my life and cannot stand still, to be able to have to sit in the mailroom was not very enjoyable.
Oh my gosh.
So for 6 months, I got this boot on, blah, blah, blah. And I went to they call it the assignment office. That's basically the name the fire department uses, the office that carries all the records of you and everybody in the fire department. I went there and said, how much time do I have in the department? I had no clue how long I had been in the department. I'm just working. They said, you got 33 years. I said, okay, you can pull the plug on me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally got a firehouse built, the current firehouse is Station 48, and I never worked there one watch.
Wow.
But I oversaw the building of that firehouse while I was walking around with my boot.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys, I went by there yesterday. It's kind of funny. I went by there yesterday. I got a guy that's got a number of pallets of San Francisco's finest chocolate. And I took the firehouse some chocolate. I dropped it by the school to Terry and the kids. They go crazy. So I had a couple other packs, Ghirardelli's chocolate, and I took that over to milk chocolate with some caramel in it.
Oh
Took
yeah.
took that to the firehouse and took a couple boxes in there. And on the wall, they still have my picture.
Oh.
I had a guy that every time I would show up under my picture, they would put deceased. that was his little running joke. But there's a little plaque that says, thank you to the fortitude of Mike Delane being able to get us this firehouse. But it's I don't know, whatever it is. It's still here. And I was like, you guys can take that down now. I've been retired for 7 years. We're moving on. But anyway, they're still over there. I don't recognize anybody who is working. It's all youngsters, all kids. I take that back. I did see a couple of guys. I saw one guy who was the biggest pain in the butt as a firefighter, and now he's the officer. So now he's in charge. I'm like, oh yeah, you're not acting crazy no more.
Oh, how things change.
Yeah, it was kind of good, but that was good. I think Treasure Island is going to be good. I think River Point Island is going to be good. I think the development is good. We need housing.
Yes.
I don't know about this charging you when you come onto the island kind of thing they're doing. I see they got the ferry berths built, and I saw a ferry over there yesterday. My wife told me that the ferry is now running. That was one thing they were supposed to do. But I think it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think this was an amazing interview. I think you have really spent some time on that island in one way or another. And I think it's going to be awesome for you to kind of see how it does develop and how it changes. And I hope that you keep going out there and checking it out. Yeah.
Well, I have always been a flea market garage sale guy.
Yes. Wait, Mike, can I stop you right here?
Yes.
Can I pause it real quick?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So flea markets.
So flea markets, garage sales have always been something I've liked. And I think it's been in my blood. I think I remember telling you that early on, my mom used to take me to actually live auctions, and people say, oh, give me 10, give me 20, I got 25, whatever was over in the East Bay. And I'd be hanging on her pants or her skirt doing that. And I remember doing that. I'm sorry. Somebody was trying to call me. I need to turn this off. Anyway, so I've always loved doing that. I still do that. I'm scheduled to do it this weekend. They talk about raining on Sunday, so that might change it. But I've always loved doing it. And I assume people who sell stuff want to make money. I mean, I guess, you never not want to make money, but to me, it's always been a good avenue for me to meet people and get a kind of flavor of the community, so to speak. So I've always done garage sales and flea markets. Now, the only reason I mention that is because when I was in the fire department, I'd bring the garage sale and the flea market to the fire department. So one of my things I had said early on was I always wanted to be able to say that during my career, I sold everybody in the fire department something. So at one point, I think I was getting close, but along with saying that, and having been in Delancey Street, one of our graduates from Delancey Street, or actually a number of them, started working for Pepsi. And one became a regional manager, one was a district manager, another guy was a driver, a number of different jobs after graduating from Delancey Street. And one of them said that we have soda that they give away, and they would donate a bunch of pallets to Delancey Street, to nonprofits.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what about the fire department? And they said, yeah, we can donate to you. So I got the paperwork, got it officialed in the fire department legally that I could get the soda. So while on Treasure Island, I had to get a Pepsi truck that would drive up and drop off like 20 pallets of soda.
Mhm.
Sometimes it was not only one truck a week, it was 3 trucks a week. So at any given time, I'd have anywhere from 20 to 60 pallets of soda.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just ungodly ridiculous. So I would turn around and just give it to nonprofits. Any nonprofits want a soda. On the island, this one guy who didn't work in the fire department was so interested in it. We went in and got a warehouse. We actually rented a warehouse on Treasure Island just to house all this soda, because we couldn't put it all at I had it all at the firehouse. It was ridiculous. And there were a couple of people complaining, why you got all this soda and you got to drive the forklift through our weight room and all. It was nuts. So we got a warehouse, and the guy had a forklift. So I would literally get a delivery, and the next day when I got off, I would literally drive pallets of forklift all over Treasure Island. Women out of prison with kids, and Swords of Plowshare, and Walden House, and just hundreds, and just so they gave me the nickname the mayor of Treasure Island. They said if you ever had a run for mayor on Treasure Island, I think you would win. So it was either the mayor of Treasure Island or the diabetic king. You know, the king of diabetes. He's bringing chocolate and soda again. You know.
Oh.
So that's how that kind of started. But we did that for a while until I stopped. But for about a good 3 or 4 years, we had more soda. And then Pepsi would have different products. They'd have some kind of health drinks or water, whatever. But got to the point where I don't drink sodas. Period. I can't stand literal sodas. But it works out good. When the training. We'd be in the firehouse before we moved to the new one. They'd use the training facility, and the training was always numbers of different units coming from the city to train from all over the city. But they all knew before we leave, we go by Station 48 and pick up some soda.
Yeah.
Now I come to find out that every firehouse has a house collector who's in charge of buying the whatever, shopping for the pepper and the all the different stuff, the house supplies, and but many of them, when they would come over and train, and I'd say take a pallet, so they'd load up a whole pallet of cases, where a lot of them were taking them back to the firehouse and put them in their soda machine that you have to pay for.
No.
I come to there's a million of those stories.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, but we did that for about 2 or 3 years. So that's how I got my little diabetic king title and mayor of Treasure Island title.
Nice. Well, to go back to your flea market and thrifting, you mentioned that because there used to be a big flea market on Treasure Island, right? Yeah,
the very early stages, there was a flea market on Treasure Island. It was kind of over in the location of where the Job Corps was at. And it didn't cost anything to park. Oh, I take this back. They tried to charge you for parking, but it's kind of crazy. You just park anywhere on the island and walk over there. I mean, it was like, but they had when you drive there, they wanted you to park in here and pay for it. But I had done the flea market out there a couple of times, but it was kind of unique, different people doing things, but there was always an interest. It was kind of fun. It was always interest. So then that flea market changed to kind of over on we used to call it the Great Line. The Great Line is gone now. Over there where I forget the little place the little restaurant that's over there now.
Marseille?
Yeah.
The one with the shipping containers?
Yes, the one by on the water.
Yeah.
So over there, where before all the development started, all that was grass.
Mm-hmm.
It's all developing now. It's all, they've taken away all the grass, just a little piece of grass left, but all that was huge. And Delancey Street would always have their picnics over there. That's where they would do their picnics. And it was great. We could be out here, we could jumping things for Kids Day and different stuff and do our picnics, and police on the island knew us, come on by and eat. We'd have barbecue, and anybody that was working in building one, we'd say, come on by and eat, whatever. Anybody that was coming through the island, we'd ask them to eat. It was kind of fun. So that's where the flea market was. And then once they started doing some developments and tearing up stuff, they moved to the backside island. And I think that might have been the nicest overall. It seemed like it was the biggest. And that family that ran that group were really nice people. I knew the guy and his wife and his kids, and I basically saw his kids grow up. But we helped them a lot. I told you before, people would leave their keys at home and have their trucks locked and whatever. We'd have to cut the bolts and come over with our bolt cutters and cut. And, one time, a couple of flags got up into got caught on something. We had to put our ladder up and get something down. And I remember, you probably don't remember. I don't know how long you've been there, but you probably don't remember. They had a humongous piece of art.
Yes.
That was on the Great Line.
Yep. The woman dancing.
The woman dancing. I used to love the art. So they used to get kites and all kind of stuff caught up in there, and they'd call the fire department, and we'd put a ladder up and take it down and do whatever we were doing. But I remember that the lady dancing. That was a nice piece of art. But I always loved flea markets, still doing them. I started in Berkeley at the Ash Street Flea Market at the BART station, and then presently I do Laney College. Laney College has a flea market. It used to be Saturday and Sunday. It's only Sunday. Berkeley's flea market is Saturday and Sunday. The Coliseum, the Oakland Coliseum's flea market is open 7 days a week.
Oh, wow, really?
You can go on Sunday, Monday, whatever day you want, and that flea market's open. I actually went there a couple of days ago, bought some jackets from the guy. But the one I'm currently going to is at Alamany in San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, and it's weekends, right?
It's on Sunday. The flea market's on Sunday. Saturday is a farmer's market.
Right.
So you can go there and get your fruits and vegetables and different things, oysters, all kind of different stuff. It's kind of nice. But I've always been doing it. In fact, I'm reserved to go to Alamany this weekend. The one I had been going to, Alamany was on and off through COVID, and their restrictions were so they didn't want anybody to touch your stuff you were selling. You'd have to hand it to them. You had to have gloves on. The other guy had to have gloves on. All these different things were going on, and so we just had to leave. We had to leave Alamany, but Alamany is now open back up. I'm happy to say I've been able to go there 2 or 3 times in the last month and said hello to a bunch of people I hadn't seen in over a year or two. So I'm going back there specifically the next 2 weeks because Laney College has a fair at it on their flea market grounds, and they're going to have a fair there for 2 weeks. So all those vendors from Laney have to go somewhere. So many of them are probably going to come to Alamany. Oh,
nice.
I've got a couple of friends I know there that have asked to come over. I got a couple of spots for them, so they're going to come to Alamany.
That's good.
But yeah, so selling has always been something I do. my wife refuses to make me a hoarder. And here at the house, she don't play that. Oh, excuse me, I can't say that.
You're okay.
You don't play that. But she also says, whenever you find something, bring it here first.
Yes.
The one thing I love about my wife, I'll see things that I love that she will take and say, okay, I'm keeping this. I'm putting that in our Christmas stuff. Because so she saves throughout the whole year. So it's not so much of a burden at the end of the year of getting presents because we have a lot of stuff already saved up.
Yeah, that's smart.
So you've gone to the school, huh?
Yes, I went there just the few days ago. It was my first time going over there.
Did you see the giraffe on the floor as you walk through the door on the left side?
Yes, yeah. That's from one of your
I got that
journeys?
giraffe at the Coliseum flea market
Wow.
and couldn't even put it in my car. I had to call a guy with a truck to come get it.
It's really cool. I did notice
And
that.
I had it in the warehouse at Delancey Street. They lost it for 2 years in the warehouse. Then they found it. And I told Terry, oh yeah, I bought this thing a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. And she said, I want it for the school. I said, okay. So that's how that ended up there. And there's actually 2 or 3 pieces sitting around it that were mine too.
Yeah.
The little dog in front, and there's another.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Aww.
love you to death. If it keeps you happy.
Go ahead. Yep.
I got my peace of mind. That's all right.
Well, speaking of Terry, I am interviewing her in 15 minutes.
Well, she's actually calling me on the phone right now. My phone is buzzing. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's wrap this up. This was amazing, Mike. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit stop and then we can just chat for a second. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.